Hi, today's episode is about adoption and Lisa's story about finding her journey to finding her biological parents.
Yes.
And I just want to, before we start, I wasn't adopted, so this is so interesting to me, as I'm sure it is to anyone out there who wasn't adopted or who is adopted or who gave up a baby for adoption. Like, there's so many sides to this story.
Yeah.
And that's why every time we talk about it, I feel like something comes out that I didn't know before. She forgets that she didn't tell me, or something that she thought that everyone would understand or know about adoption. So this is going to be, I think, many parts, many episodes to this. So today we're just going to do a short episode, just an introduction, and she needs to write a book about this because it's such an interesting story. This could be like a movie even. It's a very interesting story. So we're going to get started.
Okay.
Lisa Larson.
Yes.
Lisa.
Lisa. So, as she just said, I was adopted, and I guess first I'll say, so I was adopted at 5 days old, and I was born in 1971. So back in the 70s, it was more popular to do a closed adoption versus open adoption.
That's something that I didn't understand what the difference between closed and open adoption.
Right. So a lot of times now they do open adoptions, and that is where it's an arrangement between the biological parent and the people that are going to adopt the children. So it's an arrangement between them. Obviously, there's a third party involved, but that the biological parent can have some rights to be a part of the child's life at some point. That's the open adoption. So maybe it's just that the adoptive parents, send them letters or photos of the child, but maybe there isn't a meeting or something, or maybe there is where they're allowed to meet once a month. It's different for everyone, but mine was a closed adoption, and I was adopted through the Children's Home Society, which was really popular.
What was that?
Back in the 70s. They just basically were a group that helped place babies with families. And what a closed adoption essentially means is that you have no ties whatsoever. You have no... the biological parent loses all rights to ever knowing the child, until the child is 18, which is kind of what I did in searching. But we can back up. So that's pretty much the difference between closed and open, is that a closed one, they're pretty much signing off that they will have no contact or whatever with the parents.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay, my first question is, how old were you when you were adopted?
Yeah. So I was 5 days old when I was adopted. I think the paperwork kind of went into effect before that, but I was 5 days old when my adopted parents picked me up from the hospital. And I was actually born in Sacramento, California.
So you're brand new.
Yeah, I was a brand new baby, which, nowadays it's a little harder to get, babies in the United States, newborns, because a lot of parents are keeping their children, more. It's kind of the more norm. Yeah. And so a lot of parents decide that they'll adopt like over, seas or whatever from different countries, because it's, even though that's hard within itself, it's a lot, and costs a lot of money and all that stuff. But, it's just it's harder and harder because we've made it in society where it's easier for young parents to keep their babies.
Yeah. There's more support.
More support. Yeah.
Compared to back in the day where it's just like,
So I was born in Sacramento, California, and my parents who adopted me were in Chico, California, which is about an hour and a half north of Sacramento. So this whole time I was actually only an hour and a half away.
Wow.
Which I didn't know. Yeah. Away from my biological family, and I had no idea growing up if they were still there or if they had moved. So
how old were you? Sorry, how old were you when they told you that you were adopted?
So the earliest I remember is like kindergarten, so maybe 6 years old. And I guess my mom, back then there really wasn't a lot of books on adoption. I mean, the ones that, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of books to this day that are very good in explaining or having different point of views. There's a few I've looked, which is another reason why I kind of want to write my book.
You should write a children's book too.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah, your perspective as a child, what you would have been, like reading in a book.
Yeah, I would love to do that, and I think that there was some they're really outdated, and so my mom read me the book that was oh, you didn't come from my belly, you came from somebody else's belly. And I don't really remember. I just know that my mom told me the memory I have is her telling me that, you know, she had a friend that was over that happened to be pregnant, and the woman, I had pointed to the woman's belly and said, you know, I came from your belly, or I came from your belly, Mom.
Yeah.
And that's when she kind of said, I think she had been reading me the books, but she said, no, in fact, you didn't come from my belly, and, you know, you came from someone else's belly. And I don't think that went very well. I think I got really upset and ran in my room and slammed the door or something. But, you know, I appreciate, because and we'll talk about this later, but in my search for finding her, through the organization that I searched for her through, which is called Alma.
Linda.
Yeah, when I searched for Linda, my biological mom, you know, I just lost my train of thought. There's so much. No,
so that's why this is going to be like a many parts to this, because this story is like just fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I met several people in the organization that helped me find her, that the parents did not tell them until they were like in their 30s and 40s that they were adopted.
Wow.
And that can be very devastating for somebody.
I can imagine.
So I really appreciate Fran and Bob telling me, my mom and dad, telling me when I'm as young as possible to kind of get that in there, that I was adopted. So she would read me the books. You know, that
and you have a brother too.
I have a brother who was also adopted, and he came later. So I was 5 days old, and he came. So we're 14 months apart. So he came 14 months later.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
so you guys are pretty close.
We are close
in age, and like
we're close in age, and yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had no idea if they were still in Sacramento or not. But I think you asked me how old I was, and I said I was.
Yeah, so when they told you that, so you were like in kindergarten, you kind of brought it up. Your mum like tried to introduce it, like basically she decided from the get go that you're gonna know.
So she decided to tell me that,
that's so healthy.
And it is healthy, and I don't know where she came upon learning that.
Especially
I don't know how she figured
back in the day, like now, and this place much more like support.
Right.
Back then, it's like, here's your baby.
Yeah, here's your baby.
Luck.
And so I was like 6, and I guess the one funny story I remember is that I went to school the next day, and I told I was telling other classmates that I was bought in a grocery store, and that my mom and dad paid for me, and I was bought in a grocery store. Yeah, Whole Foods,
Trader Joe's.
And so that was actually really, that was a funny thing, because the teacher ended up asking my mom, hey, did you tell Lisa she was adopted? Because she told the whole class she was bought in a grocery store. So
you must have been really like secure and feeling loved, that you just accepted that. It wasn't traumatic.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was.
It's not a traumatic memory.
At that point, no trauma had really happened in my childhood, and so I think at that point, I was okay with it. But I also know that being a woman and being adopted, I don't know if it was just being, because my brother has different views on and being adopted, but I knew from that moment on, and my mom will tell you, I knew from that moment on that I wanted to find my biological mom.
Oh, wow.
It was kind of one of those things where I used to think when I was 7 years old that I could just ask the President of the United States to get on his microphone and say, she's looking for her biological parents, so, here, can you please say,
Did you feel like you were the only one? Like you were different than other children? Like
I think so. I mean,
like there's only a couple of you out there who were adopted?
My parents did a really good job of telling me on a regular basis how special I was. And little did they know how special I really
am. Very special.
But they told me, I was chosen.
But I love the story when you tell that.
Oh,
I love it.
So my mom told me not too long ago that I used to say to her, Mom, I just don't understand how someone could give someone up for adoption, because I'm, especially me, because I'm really cute. I'm so cute, and I don't know why they would give me up for adoption.
You were like really cute.
And I think it used to drive my brother crazy that I would say that. But I think I knew from that point that I always wanted to. Something inside me, and I don't know if it's just being a woman and having that, there was just a need, and that need grew as time went on in my family life, how it unfolded with my parents divorcing and a lot of other stuff happening, that I think it just kind of started getting stronger and stronger, of me wanting to find, I started developing like a fantasy in my head about what I would find,
a good fantasy?
I think I had my biological mom in my head to be painted out to be, you know, somebody
Yeah.
that would be a lot like me, because growing up being adopted, and I certainly didn't look like anyone in my family really, although my dad who adopted me, the Radke side of the family, they are kind of dark hair, dark eyed, so I had that. But you just, for me personally, I did always feel a little different.
Because you didn't look like anyone else.
I didn't look like anyone,
yeah.
and you know, I had a strong personality, and not that's a bad thing, but
Yeah.
I just think that I didn't mesh completely with, you know, with a lot of it.
And
so.
you want to find somebody you feel like that's my reflection. Like,
Right.
you look like me, or
Yeah.
we have the same hands, or we sound
Yeah.
the same, or
Yeah.
we say...
I always wanted to know, like
Yeah.
a big thing was like, what does she look like? What is she like?
Ah.
Does she read, you know, does
Yeah.
she, I mean, does she read, you know, the same books that I do? Does she
Yeah.
act like me? Does she walk like me? Does she
She
talk like
dance
me?
like me?
Does she dance
Yeah.
like me? You know, all these things you want to know that you're so curious about.
Yeah.
I couldn't turn off that curious button, where I think other kids kind of do.
They accept it.
They
and-
accept it, and then that's, you know, yeah, and then I just...
Did you know at that point why your biological mom, Linda, couldn't keep you? And your
I had
dad?
no idea until, you know, I eventually did find her.
Okay.
I do know that my adopted parents could not have children. They could not conceive. I think it was more my dad than my mom. So they were very excited. They were, you know, young. They were like, and well, they were in their 20s, I think mid-20s, like, and so they were very excited to adopt a baby, you know, and but they couldn't have kids of their own. So, you know, God bless them for doing that. Yeah, and so basically...
Okay, my next... I'm going to look at my questions, because this is like, I got to get back on my questions. So, did you... My next question was, did you always want to find your biological parents? And you've already answered that. What's the biggest factor in you wanting to find them? What do you think? What changed, like, from, like, just wanting to? Is it because you're 8? Probably when you got to 18, you're allowed to.
Right.
Correct?
So when you're 18, back, you know, so you're allowed to get your papers, your adoption papers, your birth papers, like kind of, so there's papers that are filled out at the time of the adoption. Okay. So my biological mom filled out papers and said things like her hair color, her eye color. It talked a little bit descriptive about her, okay, a little bit. And so you're allowed to get those when you're 18.
So you got them when you're 18.
So when I was 18, I was allowed to.
See, I didn't know this.
Yes, so I was allowed to get those papers. So so I
fun.
got these papers that said, now, here's the thing. At the time, so whatever social worker had the case of the adoption and whatever her kind of political belief was on either side, if the social worker thought that, you know, eventually that we should reconnect, they would leave things open on these papers, like birthdays, things that you would need to find each other someday. But then there was caseworkers who did not believe that, and they would like things would be crossed off. Yeah, things would be crossed off.
Gosh, that's horrible.
And so,
So they chose. They basically were the like judge and jury,
it was
and decided you're not going to be able to find her.
Right, or just, cross things off. And so with mine, they would leave like her month and year she was born, but not the birthday. There were certain things that were left open because I think she was a very, you know, kind of, so there were certain things I knew where she went.
That probably doesn't happen now.
No, because it's all open adoption now.
So
and less people have their hands in your, so
my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was very controlled, right? So
by judge that, that's horrible.
It is. It's weird. So through the Children's Home Society, so whatever the caseworker was, right? And so when I got these papers, I got to read them, and I think I have them somewhere. And you know, it said she had blonde hair and blue eyes and almond-shaped eyes, and I'm like, well, almond-shaped is kind of like mine, you know, but blonde hair is not.
How did you feel when you're reading all that?
Well, it was something I'd waited for so long that you know, when I finally got the papers, it was super exciting, even though it was just a step closer in
How did
finding
Fran
her.
feel? Your mom?
So my mom was really, she was very supportive through the whole search, but she was very, you know, she kind of kept me level-headed and very quiet. She was pretty quiet about her feelings. She was supportive, which was really nice. And she just wanted me to keep a level head. And I think her fear was me getting hurt and finding somebody who was either like a drug addict or finding, I mean, we didn't know. Like they could have been deceased. I knew a lot
or
of
not want you to be in contact. Like maybe they didn't even want to know
or they
you.
didn't want to even know me, and that's like a big fear. So I did see that quite a bit in my in the Alma organization that helps people find. I actually knew a friend who his biological father, spitting image of him, opened the door and just closed the door in his face.
My gosh.
So it was, there was a lot of things I heard and witnessed that were hard. And for some reason, though, with my story, I just intuitively knew that I would eventually find her, and I just knew that it was going to be a positive thing, and I knew that she would want to find me. And I don't know where I got that optimism from. I don't know.
But maybe she was sending it out there because she's always
maybe
like wondering.
She was putting it out there, and we can talk about that later because she was. But I always knew. Yeah, I just knew.
Did she know when she had you? Because back then, sometimes they didn't tell. When you gave birth, if you're going to adopt, they just would take the baby away. Is that the case with her?
Yeah, so basically, a lot of times with the closed adoptions, they don't even really let you know the sex of the baby.
They have like a sheet up?
They put a sheet up where she can't, there's no connection. Yeah. So...
just terrible.
It's terrible.
For both. I mean, you, as a newborn baby, and her as a mother, to not have that connection.
Yeah. But because women would change their mind.
And they should have been supported if they did. That's the whole thing that's different now.
I know. It's very different now. And she thought that she was doing the best thing for me. And, and quite frankly, it probably was, in the best thing for me.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. And so, I hold no hard feelings whatsoever. I never have. And a lot of people, I think you and other people have always asked me, do you feel, are you upset that she gave you up for adoption, or are you angry? And, that never crossed my mind, ever. No. It never, ever crossed my mind. And so I don't know if it was a lot of, her putting that out there or praying or what, but it just never crossed my mind to be upset. It was more of an excitement for me, and I can't wait to find her. And I just always thought it was going to be a good
that's
reunion. Yeah.
So my question was did she know that you were a boy or a girl? Did they tell her?
So they, from what I recall, they did not tell her immediately. So my mom, again, here's this person working at the hospital, and so much of what their opinion is what happened. So I guess my mom had, she had me, and she had 3 kids later. So out of her 4 births, I was the most difficult one. Yeah. So that's kind of sad, but she had begged the nurse, or asked the nurse, can you please tell me, if I had a boy or a girl or whatever, and she said you had a baby girl. Oh, wow. And the nurse ended up taking a picture of me for her.
Oh, wow.
And she kept it in her Bible.
God bless that nurse.
I know.
I wish you could reach out to her and say thank you.
So she kept that picture of me and the baby bracelet that says Baby Girl Zuter, because their last name, my parents don't bleep out that, but anyway, she kept the bracelet and the picture of me in her Bible until the day we met, and then she gave it to me, and she wouldn't even part with the picture. Actually, at that point, she said, "You may have a copy of this photo." But
so she had that photo with her, and she knew you. Did she name you? Have you ever asked her that?
I've never asked her that.
I don't. In her heart, in her mind.
I've never asked her that. I don't think. One thing I will say is that she said she always prayed for me every single day. Like when she prayed for her kids, I was included in that every time.
And every birthday, I bet she was thinking, "What's she doing now? Did she ever go and look for you or anything?"
So she did start looking for me the same week that I found her is the week she started looking for me. So we can.
See, I didn't know this.
Yeah. Wow. She actually, so back then you used to be able to put your name, I think, maybe you still can for the closed adoptions that still exist, but you used to be able to put your name in, and they would connect. So if the adoptee and if the adoptee, which would be me, and the birth parent put their name in, they would connect them. So you could be connected that way. But I had found her before that, and I guess we can save that for the next episode. Yeah. How I searched for her and
I know. Now we're going to get how did you feel growing up knowing you were adopted? We've covered so many things that I was going to ask you.
I know.
This is maybe the end of part 1.
I mean,
because there's so much we can cover.
So much.
And I'm actually excited, even though I know your story. I love it over and over again. find out new things.
Yeah, so maybe we end here and then we take it to episode
episode 2. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think we looked at the camera once.
No,
Through that
probably
whole
not.
thing. It was like our own private conversation. Sorry, guys.